about 15 seconds before starting. All right. Good evening, Georgetown community and parents. Hopefully we have some folks joining us tonight. My name is Wes Vanacek. I work here at the Hammerlin Center for Leadership and Learning, specifically in assessment and feedback. And I have some folks with me here. We're going to bring some information to you about our standards-based grading and reporting. And so before we get started, just want to point out a couple of faces on the screen that you'll see tonight and maybe hear from, depending on our questions and information that we're sharing. But I have Scott Goldman and Deb Jacobson and Lindsay Cooper, all on the assessment team. Miss Melinda Brazier is from our communications team, helping us stay up and running, and will be doing some moderating for us tonight as well. Maria Garcia is going to support us for language services, and we'll also be having a Spanish presentation after this event. We have Tiffany Pullen and Mandy Partita from our curriculum team. And then behind the scenes, keeping us on the air, is George Henderson. So thanks everybody for being here tonight, and we'll go ahead and get started. So bear with me, and I'll pull up the presentation. All righty. So as I said, this is a short presentation for our parents about standards-based grading in Georgetown ISD. This is part of our Parent U production. So we're excited to bring this information to you. So just a little bit of digital housekeeping. The format of tonight will be a short presentation followed by a Q&A, a live Q&A session. And so at the end of the presentation, I will show a QR code that you can scan with any smartphone camera, and that'll take you to a Google form where you can drop questions into a form for us, and then we will answer those questions as they come in. We do plan to close a little bit before 7 p.m. for our next session that'll be in Spanish. And then there's also, I'll have a short link on there that you can type into your web browser if the QR code is not what will work for you. So just a quick overview of the agenda for tonight. We do want to start with our vision, mission, and beliefs in Georgetown ISD. Kind of look at what's the difference between standards-based grading and a more traditional grading setup. Why do we think this is a great approach? And then where can I find more information as a parent? And then, like I said, we'll close out and have a live Q&A session. So we'll go ahead and get started. So in Georgetown, we have a strategic framework that guides and kind of gives us the parameters for which we make all of our decisions laid against. And as you'll see there, it ties all the systems and aspects of our district together. And anytime we're considering a new way of doing things, we vet it against this strategic framework. And we want to make sure that it's promoting and in keeping with our vision of being home of the most inspired students served by the most empowered leaders. And in that, it serves our mission of inspiring and empowering every learner to lead, grow, and serve. And so we'll share a little bit about how we believe standards-based grading and reporting aligns to both that vision, mission, as well as our beliefs. And so we do have a set of beliefs in Georgetown ISD, and two of those are that it's our responsibility to prepare students for their future. We believe that in Georgetown, America, it is our responsibility to prepare our students for their future, not for our past, but for their future. And that is such a lofty endeavor. We also believe that instruction should be designed based on the needs of learners. We believe standards-based grading and reporting directly supports and aligns to these belief statements, especially the instruction should be based on the needs of learners. As we'll talk in just a moment, we'll see that the standards-based grading and reporting helps teachers really uncover the learning needs and then design future instruction based on those needs. And as far as preparing our students for their future, we know that academic preparation is a huge component of being prepared and eligible to be successful in their future. And the other part of being prepared for the future is our GISD learner profile. You guys may be familiar with this. But this was a profile of a learner in Georgetown, America. It was developed by our community in about 2015. And as you'll see, this covers all of the skills and attributes that community members in Georgetown believe that a student should leave our system with and have developed those skills and attributes in order to be successful. And so when we couple the GISD learner profile with strong academic learning, then we believe that our students will be most prepared for their future. So let's take a look and kind of see, how does this differ? And so on the left side of the screen, you'll see a traditional report card. And this is something that most of us are probably pretty familiar with. It's probably how we all received grades in most of our schooling days. But we had our subjects down one side, there was science and math and language arts, and then we got a grade. It's just a simple numeric grade, and it might have ranged from a 72 for some of us or 100 for some of us. But essentially that told us that we had that grade in that subject area, and really that was about it. It didn't really tell us specifically what we were doing well in or what we might have been struggling in. And so in an effort to better know what student needs are and what student performance is, a standards-based report card does just that. So it takes that subject area like math or language arts or science or any of the other subject areas, and it expands out all the way to the standard level. And so all of the individual standards that make up mathematics in second grade, or language arts in third grade, or science in second grade, all of those standards are spelled out on the report card. And so teachers are able to have students participate in activities and learning activities, and then be evaluated on whether they're meeting that standard or approaching that standard, or not making progress on that standard. And that is more detailed information that is then turned around to both the student and the parents. So all of the stakeholders involved in the learning process have more information to be able to make decisions and support learning on. So kind of in summary, a standards-based report card communicates growth in all content areas. It does focus on high priority learning standards and focus TEKS. Provides feedback on the learner profile, which we'll talk about in just a moment. It allows the teacher opportunity to provide comments, which I would say this is some of the more crucial aspects of standards-based grading and reporting, that the teachers are able to speak specifically as to why a student may be at the approaches standard mark versus the met standard mark. It provides more detail on students' progress, as we saw previously. And so here in math, rather than just one simple grade for the 9 weeks, we actually can get essentially grades. We get grades on each standard. There's a utilization of a common rubric to assess tasks aligned to standards. And so you may be asking, well, how does my teacher know, like what does my teacher do or what does the student do? And so the students engage in instructional activities to where they're learning the content. And the teachers then have rubrics to where when the students are engaging in the demonstration of that learning, they can evaluate whether that student has met the standard or not. And then that's what they report onto the progress report or to the report card. And then finally, the tasks focus on mastery of learning. And that's a subtle statement, but it's crucial that it's mastery of learning versus just completing some work. Oftentimes in a traditional model, we may see a tendency for the work to be a little bit more compliance oriented, not solely, but sometimes you've heard the concept of busy work, I'm sure. And so this model moves away from that to where the work that the students are engaging in is primarily for the mastery of learning. So you may have a question about how my child is going to be assessed on behavior and how does that look? And so we do have our learner profile, and as we just briefly covered, our learner profile includes many of the skills and attributes that would support student behavioral aspects with regards to their learning. And so showing growth in learner profile attributes are aligned to specific grade level behavior. This does replace a conduct grade. And so more specifically, you can see what about your students' behavior is being assessed and how well they're making growth, whether that's on collaboration or communication or building respectful relationships, or whatever the case may be. And the rubric for scoring these are available on the GISD Parent Curriculum website, and we'll go there in just a moment. So what it looks like for the learner profile attainment on the report card is each of those learner profile areas are on the report card, and the standards there are below. And so your child's teacher would mark where they fall on each 9 weeks, and then provide comments as to the progress made, or perhaps request a conference if the teacher believes that it's best for you guys to sit down and talk about the progress made. So I want to jump out of the presentation and just kind of walk you through where, as a parent, I can find some information about standards-based reporting. So if you just go to the normal old georgetownisd.org website and click on the parents link, and then scroll down, there's some FAQs, and if you scroll down to the bottom, there's an FAQ that says, where can I find information about the standards-based report card? And there's a link right here. And that'll take you to kind of the home base for all things standards-based grading, standards-based report cards. And so on the home page, there's a sample of the report cards in both Spanish and English. There's a really handy infographic that just kind of highlights some of the points that we've discussed here tonight as well, and some of the different benefits for students and for parents. And so certainly encourage you guys to visit this location. And for those who want to dig in a little bit deeper and say, okay, I want to know more about what the actual activities or what the standards are, if you come over here and click on the report card rubrics, you can open up a rubric specifically to each of the content areas for each of the grade levels. So having a kindergarten language arts rubric, and this begins to show which of the different standards are being covered and what that looks like. So this kind of gives you a peek into what it looks like in the classroom and how they're evaluating your students' learning progress. And so there's a host of other resources here that we would certainly encourage you to take a look at. But more than anything, the most important piece of standards-based grading and reporting is the communication and the relationship between the teacher and the parents and the students. And so I would encourage you to reach out to your child's teacher, especially right around either progress report cards or report card time, and ask those questions more specifically about the progress, whether there's met standard or approaching standard. And sometimes there's an NA on a standard, and that NA is not assessed, and that's okay. That's a time at which that particular standard hasn't been covered yet. Perhaps it's in the next 9 weeks or in the next semester, and that's okay, but oftentimes it can be confusing. And so there's a little bit of some learning curves for all of us involved as we're working through standards-based report card. And so certainly want to encourage everyone to reach out to their teachers. You can certainly reach out to us here at the Hammerlin Center, and that phone number is 512-943-5000, 5000. And we're certainly willing to work through any questions that you may have and facilitate any types of conversations as well. So before we close out and we check out some of our questions that we may have in the form, I want to close with just a quote, and it's: the power of standards-based grading lies in the opportunity for a more nuanced and focused conversation between parents and teachers about where students are strong, where they're weak, and how each can help the student. So with supporting literature and a growing body of research validating standards-based grading, stakeholders can rest assured that our most important resource, our students, will benefit from this shift. And we agree with this quote. We do believe that our students are our most important resource in our society, frankly, and that this method is a way for us to better know and better communicate learning progress for all stakeholders involved in the learning process. So at this point, that's what we have for a presentation for you tonight. I'm going to pause and leave this screen up for a few minutes and make sure that you have access to either scan this QR code with your smartphone camera app, or you can go to this URL.@/SGTX5, and that'll take you to a Google form where you can simply submit your questions. Thank you guys for joining us tonight, and we'll wait and allow some of the questions to populate, and I think we have a couple. So I'm going to pause and turn it over to Ms. Brazier. I believe she's going to moderate with us from here.
Hi there, Wes. Thanks for the presentation. We do have a couple questions that have come in. One is, standards-based reporting makes sense for gauging student progress, but how does this method of grading compare to our peer districts? Is this a method that they're using for grading as well?
Oh, that's a great question. So there's a short answer and a long answer. The short answer is that we are very consistent or similar with many of our neighboring districts in the grade levels that we currently use standards-based grading. So right now we are in pre-K, kinder, first, second, and third grade. And many of our surrounding districts are also in those same grade bands. So kind of the early elementary years. And so there's a couple of them that still may have a different methodology, but it's certainly growing in some popularity, and many of our most immediate neighbors are as well.
Awesome. Next question is, how are teachers using these scores to communicate progress with students? You talked about how parents can access the report cards and read these scores, but how are teachers using this to help students understand their progress? And, you know, maybe if they have older siblings and they understand what traditional grades look like, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I have a little bit of an inside perspective that my wife is actually a teacher in the district, and she's been utilizing standards-based grading for a couple of years now as well as my students are going through this as well. So from that perspective as well. And so they're able to provide the students with that feedback as to that they're making that progress, or be able to have some conferencing opportunities with the students about what they need to spend a little bit more time on, or provide some differentiated opportunities. And so I think it looks a little bit different depending on the classroom as to if students are setting specific goals with language around the standards, or if it's more specifically around the concepts and the contents that the students are setting goals and identifying needs around. And that's a pretty generic. I'm going to ask either Tiffany or Mandy. I think they can probably pop in and give a little bit more detailed answer on that one.
Hi, this is Tiffany Pullen. I am the elementary language arts and social studies coordinator. And so our teachers in pre-K through third grade use the rubric to have conversations with students about their learning and where they're at in their learning. Like Wes said, it varies. Some campuses, students are creating data binders and helping track their own progress. And then at some campuses, teachers are tracking the progress, and when they meet with kids for conferencing or in small groups, they're able to communicate what skills they're working on and where they're headed as far as goals. So it definitely helps us to work with students and set goals for them and help them see that they have the ability to make progress in something, that it's not just going to be taught one time and we're finished with it, but that they will get to continue to work on it until they master those skills.
Awesome, thank you. And the last question, at least for now, we could have a couple more come in, but the last question I see here is, can you remind us again how to find the report cards, and are they available to view in Skyward?
You bet. So they are certainly available to view in Skyward. I'm going to jump back here. So just the normal GISD parent website. So any, if you just go to georgetownisd.org and then click on the Parents tab right here. And then as you scroll down, there's just a whole a host of FAQs, and specifically down here at the bottom, standards-based report card information. And this is what will take you directly to the samples. So here's a second grade example report card in English. And you'll be able to, and then you can come through and see all of those different, the different standards that are in each of the subject areas. So nice. Quick recap, and that's the Parents tab. Scroll down to the bottom of the page, and then the standards-based report card information link there under the question that says, where can I find information about standards-based report card?
Cool. Hey, while you have the website up there, will you go over to Parent U? You mentioned at the beginning of this session that this information was part of our Parent U launch this month. And if parents are watching and they're not familiar with Parent U, it might be helpful for them to see that that's easy to access. It's on the district site and it's on all the campus sites. And then new content is launched each month. And so if you scroll down, you'll see the things that got launched this week. And one of the items under now available is standard-based report cards. And I think you guys have some additional resources, some that you showed in the presentation, and a couple things maybe that are in addition to that parents can access as well.
Yep, so there's a video on here as well that is very similar to the content, and then the infographic as well.
Cool, thank you.
You bet.
We got another question in. It is, do teachers receive training to best support students with the learner-based profile?
Yes, so it sounds like the question is about the learner profile. I'm going to answer it about that as well as the standards-based grading. So our teachers go through training each year and a couple of times built in throughout the year to make sure that we're calibrating and we have consistent practices and understand kind of the nuances of a standards-based grading model. As far as the learner profile goes, there are different types of training throughout. That is certainly an area in our district that we are learning and growing the right way to not only provide activities and instruction that develops the learner profile attributes in our students, but also there's a practice of identifying where in our curriculum there are natural ways to weave in different kind of skill activities, and then the right way to assess and show progress on that. So that is absolutely ongoing professional learning, and that's an area of our district work that, as we were talking about aligning to our beliefs, that we believe is very strongly aligned to supporting preparing our students for their future, and we'll continue to work in that area for sure.
Great, thank you. And if there are parents watching that maybe are new to the district and wondering about more information on our learner profile, they can go to our website and under About GISD, they'll see the GISD learner profile. That might be another good resource for folks.
Everybody for joining us tonight. And if you've got questions that weren't answered here, feel free to either reach out to your campus or reach out to us here at the Hamlin Center.